Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs are the clear-cut running back 1 and 2 options in 2026 fantasy drafts. But who should be the third running back selected? We reveal our answers, plus predict the third place finish for wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, today's March 3rd, so 3-3, right? I just wanted to do something a little bit fun because this morning I was thinking about, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Those guys are going to be the clear-cut running back 1 and 2 off the board. You can have your argument for either guy, and I think you can make a case for either one to be the running back 1 or the 2. But then who should be the third running back selected? Because this group of guys, the next group in these rankings, Jonathan Taylor, CMC, Devin Achane, James Cook, they all have their slight worries, right, when it comes into being a top 3 guy this upcoming year. So I wanted to do that with the running backs and then the rest of the positions as well. So let's start with running backs here. Vinny, who would be your top candidate for the running back 3 in 2026 fantasy drafts?
Yeah, there are a lot of options that you can explore here with the number 3 pick at running back. And we did get the news there with Bijan Robinson. We're probably losing Tyler Algier in free agency. That helps. And then we get, of course, the big news of David Montgomery leaving Detroit. So Jahmyr Gibbs figures to be locked in there. So 1-2, however you look at it with those two guys. That's that. Then, Christian McCaffrey, we have to start with him. He was the top scorer this year, so he's in the mix. Then you figure Jonathan Taylor, Devin Achane, James Cook. These are some of the guys that would be in that mix. Now, I think looking at the rankings, you'd say, okay, we're just going to go to McCaffrey. Then you might look at Taylor in that next tier. Achane, we've already told you that we're having serious doubts with the Dolphins and their direction. So I think I'm going to James Cook because when I look at the variables and the guy that's in his prime, the guy is going to have his offensive coordinator elevated to the head coach. And Josh Allen is not going to just keep up his pace every year with running that much. And James Cook is having a bigger and bigger factor. He's been a scoring machine. He's become very efficient running. This is a run-first team in the end. I know that we're looking at, are they going to get weapons for Josh Allen? But they want to keep to be a run-first team. So James Cook, in his prime, has gotten paid. He seems like the guy here. Jonathan Taylor, you're not quite sure. Daniel Jones, does he return at full speed with the Achilles? We assume he's going to return. Christian McCaffrey getting up there. Had a high volume last year. Achane, we talked about just not being on a good Dolphins team. James Cook is going to be on a good Bills team. And I think he has the best shot of this group to go up to that number 3 status behind what we've seen from Robinson and Gibbs. One thing I'd like to see more, and one thing that Robinson Gibbs do great, is catch the ball. James Cook came in as that option. He's kind of emerged into a better all-around back where he can score and do all those things as well. So he's just become more talented in terms of just straight up running the ball. That's going to sometimes hurt catching the ball, but I still think he'll be a big factor. I think they can expand his role there. I think Joe Brady is not going to feel encumbered by Sean McDermott kind of looking over. Brady's going to keep it more wide open here. So I'm feeling it a lot with James Cook, Michelle. If I had to pick one of those guys, that's where I'd feel the most comfortable there at number 3.
I don't mind that pick. I think he's one of the safer ones to not disappoint too greatly, right? Like he's probably going to be at that 16 points per game, but with the running back 3, I want that more upside. I mean, James Cook this year had 309 carries, over 1,600 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns, right? Great year. You can't expect much more on the ground. You need that receiving work to go up, but it's going to have to go up greatly for him to hit that 19 point per game mark, which is what all the top 3 guys did at least this year. I'm going to stick with Christian McCaffrey. I get it. It's scary with the injury history, with the age, but he was running back 1 again this year at 21.5 points per game in half PPR. That's 1.5 more points per game than any other running back. He still was able to handle 413 touches this last year. Maybe those touches hurt him next year, but I'm going to stick with it. Running back 1 in 2023, running back 2 in 2022, missed most of 2020 and 2021, but was still running back 3 in points per game during that span, and running back 1 in 2019. When he plays, he is the running back 1. So I'm going to take him at running back 3. And you get that slight discount for a guy that if he makes it throughout the year, you're going to get it because the receptions are just incredible. That work he sees with the 49ers. Now, if you had to go with a dark horse candidate, I'm not going too crazy, but a guy that you're going to rank as your running back 3 that you don't typically see ranked as a running back 3 anywhere else for this upcoming year, who would you go with?
Yeah, I think we're all waiting for Derrick Henry to drop off, and then you look at last season, he's an off year, and he still exploded down the stretch with some big numbers here in to the close to the top 5 with his scoring. So when I'm looking at Derrick Henry, I don't see anyone slowing down. I actually think this new offense with Declan Doyle will favor Derrick Henry because we saw him come from Chicago where Ben Johnson was effective with that committee of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monengai. Declan Doyle also comes from the background of Denver, so he knows the importance of the running game there. And Henry, I think that could help Henry get a few more looks in the passing game as well, where he's not a zero in the passing game. If you get him a short pass, he can do the same thing, break a tackle and go the distance. I'm not saying he's going to shoot up to like 40 receptions, but 20 to 25 effective receptions there is going to be helpful for Derrick Henry, and he's a scoring machine. I think overall, the Ravens should get Lamar Jackson back for regular games here. That should mean their offense is more explosive. They're more in scoring position. They're going to open things up a little bit more, but I still think they want to be a running team at heart. So use that running game, play off of it, and then use the big plays in the pass game to deliver that. And the one thing we have seen is that Derrick Henry's not really hurt by Lamar Jackson's running at all. He's actually helped by it because it's a threat of Jackson. Jackson is a little slight of build, so you're not really pounding him the way you would tush push like a Jalen Hurts or run Josh Allen in the red zone. Like they're not going to just let him take the beating when they have Derrick Henry to pound in and score. And really, there's not a lot that you look at with the competition. We tried the Keaton Mitchell types and all these, but they just break down, and Derrick Henry just keeps chugging along. Doesn't matter how old he is. I think he's a freakish part of this whole legend of running back where he's headed to the Hall of Fame, but I don't think he's going to slow down yet this year. So you always have a chance because he's a good bet. If you're looking at touchdown per game in this situation, Derrick Henry's the best bet to do that. And if you get to 17 touchdowns, then you're really headed towards a big season, and you don't have to do as much in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, with him, it really just comes down to the touchdowns. He could score 20 touchdowns in any given year, even at his age now. So if that happens, definitely like that. Now, I'm going a little bit riskier. I'm going with Omarion Hampton here, running back 15 on average in his rookie season. But 2 of those games he played in weeks 1 and 2 were with Najee, limited playing time. The 7 games he got to play without Najee Harris, weeks 3 through 17, but missed some time in that span with a fractured ankle. But he averaged 15.7 points per game, 18.6 touches per game in those 7 games. That's on pace for 316 touches on a season. And that's again in his rookie year. And that's with playing 4 of those 7 games coming off a broken ankle, right? So you would expect him to be able to take on even more work and be more efficient, not coming off that injury. But first 2 games, so really only 2 games we got to see him fully healthy and be the star of the team without Najee there, weeks 3 and 4, 22 points and 25 points in half PPR. So he's going to get all the work. He's going to get the targets, the goal line work. Mike McDaniels is now the OC. He likes to use his running back as a pass catcher. So I absolutely love Omarion Hampton this year. And I'm absolutely fine if anyone wants to take that risk on him as the running back 3 in their drafts. Now, we're going to move to wide receivers now, which I think is much, much harder to figure out, especially just even at the top. So we'll get to that right after a quick break. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. And if you're here with us every day, now it's time to level up and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Fantasy Football with no interruptions. Members only Discord access and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, let's get into these wide receivers here and predict our wide receiver 3 for 2026. Right now, Puka Nacua and Jahmyr Chase are the consensus wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 for 2026 drafts. Vinny, do you agree with that, or would you change someone out? I think I agree with that. Puka and Chase should be 1 and 2.
Yeah, I don't know how I can go against that. Jahmyr Chase recently won the Triple Crown. You should get Joe Burrow back for a full year. That should put him right back up there in the conversation to have the highest scoring season at wide receiver. Puka Nacua is Puka Nacua. He should get some of those touchdowns back that Devontae Adams scored to steal from him. But overall, he's just dominant. I mean, he can take over games just like that with double-digit catches and pushing towards 200 yards receiving. So those two guys clearly can not only give you the consistency, but some big games. But when we look behind them, you have Jaxson, Smith-Njigba, of course. Everyone's basically consensus offensive player of the year. Big year for him. He didn't, however, score a lot of touchdowns. And you have CeeDee Lamb, who's coming back. We can't forget about him. George Pickens is all the hype. He's got the franchise tag. He's coming up. He had a big season. We know he was in the Pro Bowl and all that. So CeeDee Lamb cannot be forgotten. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the clear go-to guy in an offense, basically going to surround itself with the top wide receiver and tight end. And then you have Justin Jefferson. And I have to go with Justin Jefferson. I really maybe am willing this to existence, but the Vikings, I'm looking at the news every day, Michelle. And I know the Jets and Browns and Cardinals and Dolphins and some of these teams have quarterback issues, but the Vikings seem to be the one I see every day. Who are they going to get? Are they going to get Kirk Cousins? Are they going to get Mac Jones? Are they going to get Anthony Richardson? Are they going to get Tua Tagovailoa? They're basically exploring every option that isn't J.J. McCarthy to bring in for competition. And you have to think the number one thing is, how are you going to get the ball to Justin Jefferson? Honestly, like, the one I feel the best about is Mac Jones, because what he did with Brian Thomas Jr., and he can feed that number one a lot. I think I'd also feel, of course, great with Cousins, because Cousins and Jefferson have that chemistry. So I think I want either of those two guys, Richardson and Tua. You'll get a little dicey here sticking with J.J. McCarthy. So I want somebody who's going to put the ball in Jefferson's hand. I'm confident that Kevin O'Connell will say, look, we kind of goofed with Sam Darnold. We need to go get somebody out there. We should have trusted the guy. We should have not rushed McCarthy into action. Maybe Darnold knew that they were going to rush McCarthy and he wanted to find a different offense. But when you look at this Justin Jefferson, it's too good, Michelle, too talented. He's the other receiver, triple crown capacity here. You think they have to grease his wheel. Like, he grinded, played well as he could with the quarterback situation. He didn't complain one bit. Go give this man a quarterback again and let him dominate. Because I still saw the signs of domination. It was just that people didn't get him the ball. So do it in Minnesota, and you'll have a top 3 fantasy receiver again.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you. Justin Jefferson was my guy too. I don't want people to right now in rankings, he's kind of buried for Justin Jefferson. Like, he's wide receiver 8
Absolutely.
right now, I believe. I get it. He was wide receiver 37 last year. Insanity. Only 9.4 points per game and half PPR. It was an atrocious year all around. But you brought up everything. Like, not going to let JJ McCarthy be the starting quarterback if he's not hyper targeting and getting that connection with Justin Jefferson, right? The other guy that they bring in is going to win. And that's going to be their priority, is to feed Justin Jefferson. One bad year for fantasy, but the 3 years prior, 2021 through 2024, he averaged 16.6 points per game in half PPR. That's the most among running backs or wide receivers in that span. He was a top 5 wide receiver each of those seasons, with a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 1 finish in there. He was just a wide receiver 2 in 2024 with Sam Darnold. He was wide receiver 5 in 2023 with half a year Kirk Cousins and backups, and then wide receiver 1 in 2022 with that full year with Kirk, and wide receiver 4 in 2021. So I'm going right back to him. There's a little bit worries about the quarterback, but as long as they bring in another guy for competition, I feel good about that. Now, who is your dark horse candidate to be the wide receiver 3 this year?
Yeah, I guess we said don't go too deep, and I'm actually not going as deep as people might think, because he was the wide receiver 7 in a lot of formats last year in terms of average scoring. It's Chris Olave. You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Chris Olave? But I'll say this, Tyler Shuck, there's something that the Saints are onto here in the Kellen Moore offense, Tyler Shuck. I mean, you look at their second half. I mean, Shuck playing half a season almost was the favorite for Rookie of the Year offensively. So this kid has got something going. And I was thinking about when I was watching the combine that this is where we saw Tyler Shuck kind of develop, that he can have some big play ability with his arm and get the ball downfield. And Chris Olave, I think the Saints are in the market for another receiver. And this is the thing that happened last year when we saw goodbye to Rashid Shaheed. You didn't see them really keep Brandon Cooks either. So it really opened up where Chris Olave and basically Juwan Johnson were this passing game for the most part for Tyler Shuck. So I think they'll get Chris Olave some help, which is also going to help him get open a little bit better. They could take a wide receiver theoretically in the first round, but this offense is progressing. And we've seen Kellen Moore in his previous stops at Dallas, with Los Angeles, of course, with Philadelphia, really helped that top wide receiver. And I think that's going to continue here. I mean, Shuck is going to be there from the beginning. Keep that in mind. You don't have to deal with Spencer Rattler or any of these other dudes. You're going to get this top quarterback in the making from the beginning of the year. And Chris Olave is going to be targeted a ton. He was already a dominant target machine last year. I don't see that necessarily changing. So I love the chemistry between Shuck and Olave. I think he's going to see a lot of balls come his way. I think he's a really talented wide receiver. I think we've talked a lot about Garrett Wilson, Jaxson, Smith-Njigba from his program at Ohio State. But I think when I was looking at all these guys, Olave is the guy I trusted most here. So I'm going to Olave and feel really good about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick there. I'm going to go with Malik and Nabers. Coming off this ACL tear, definitely going to be a little bit nervous, but if he's good to go back in training camp, I think he could very much finish as a top 3 wide receiver. He's averaged 14.1 points per game and half PPR in his 2 seasons in the NFL. That's the 5th most points per game among wide receivers to play at least 15 games over the last 2 years, behind only Ja'Marr Chase, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jaxson Smith-Njigba. And now he gets to work with Jackson Dart, which we haven't got to see it yet, but I think Dart's the best quarterback you'll have. I think his coaching staff has increased greatly. And yeah, maybe they add other weapons, but he's just that dude. Like, Malik Nabers has that skill set to be a top 3 wide receiver in this league. So that's who I would lean towards here, Malik Nabers. We're going to get to our quarterbacks and tight ends, who we think should be the tight end 3 and quarterback 3 for 2026, right after a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Indeed and Indeed Sponsored Jobs. If you're looking for the right candidates there to solve your workplace chaos, this is the place to go. Deadline's stacking up, inboxes overflowing. The one position you have to fill is still sitting open when the pressure's on and you need the right hire. This is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Do that right now because you can spend more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. The listeners of Locked On Fantasy Football will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Fantasy Football. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. It's March, and that means we know madness is coming soon. College basketball is nonstop. We're getting close to the conference tournaments. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. Who's going to make the big dance? Who's going to get the top seeds? From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action across the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you're seeing the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Look at odds there around what you have. Look for the game that you're looking for as well as your favorite team. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style. Now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Michelle, time to close the show. We got a couple more positions to get through. Who's number 3? That's what we're playing on 3-3, March 3rd here. So all lining up pretty well. Now, tight end, we know who they are. They're the last two guys that have become studs. The new guard is here, and they're led by Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. I mean, these two guys are outstanding. They're wide receiver-like machines, go-to guys for their teams, the Cardinals and Raiders, respectively. But we're not quite sure number 3 is. George Kittle would have been that guy for sure, but he is coming off a torn Achilles. So let's look at the candidates here, and I'll let you pick first here. Colston, Loveland, Tyler Warren, Tucker Kraft coming back from the knee injury, Harold Fannin Jr., breakout season as a rookie. He fits the profile of the other two. And Sam Laporta now getting into a more maybe tight end friendly offense of Drew Petzing, who just helped the big season of Trey McBride. So who do you like of this group?
I think you can make a case for any of these guys to finish top 3 next year, but I'm going to go with Colston Loveland, which might be a boring one because he is ranked as the tight end 3 in consensus rankings right now. But I think that's correct. He really broke out the second half of his rookie year, right? So I don't want to look at his full numbers from last year. Typically with tight ends, it doesn't happen immediately or for any position in the NFL. But once he got that shot, he absolutely took off, averaged 12.2 points per game in half PPR from weeks 9 through the divisional round. 12.2 points per game would have put him as the tight end 3 in average scoring this past year. He was averaging over 7 targets a game, 66 receiving yards per game, and 3.4 yards per reception during that span. 13 yards per reception for a tight end is amazing. He had at least 10 targets in each of the last 4 games of the year, including the playoffs. And he just showed he has that upside to continually be a top fantasy tight end in the league. So with Ben Johnson, as long as he's there, I'm going to feel good about this. And we could even see DJ Moore or Cole Kmet being a trade candidate this summer. There's already been some rumors surrounding DJ Moore, at least. So I think Colston Loveland could really turn into that elite fantasy asset in his second year.
Yeah, I could see Cole Kmet totally being traded here as well, because that would be really great. And maybe he'll go back to Declan Doyle and end up in Baltimore helping to replace Isaiah Likely. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. I'm already envisioning that. DJ Moore, let's get him out of there. Let's just make this the Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland offense, but make it so that's Loveland, Odunze, and then what we have in Burden third in this offense. So let that be the pecking order. Let's create Chiefs Part 2, shall we? Let's create Odunze as the big play threat. Have the Travis Kelce of this offense be Colston Loveland. Yeah. Look, I like Tyler Ward. They moved him around well, but there's some things that I'm worried about here with their quarterback situation. We know that Laporta coming back from injury, so let's see how that plays out. Kraft as well doing that. And Fannin, we'll see if Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback still. He had great chemistry with him. With Loveland, there's not much to worry about here. You got the quarterback, you got the system, you've got the big playability, Ben Johnson, Sam Laporta. It's all kind of all connected, right? With all these tight ends doing well against for the same offensive coordinators and play callers. So Colston Loveland tore it up down the stretch. He had that Bengals game, and he just kept on going. And he finished as tight end 14 while he's sharing time and not really doing much for the first half of the season. So this dude is going to shoot up to tight end 3 for sure. And I like that. Now, who's your dark horse here? I think there's a variety of options. You might have to go a little deeper here.
Yeah, and I'm not even going deep. I'm going with a big name, but right now he's the consensus tight end 13. That will change if we get good news about his injury. But George Kittle, I'm going back. Even if, like, let's say he's back by week 1 and we get that news, which I do expect him to be back, I still don't think a lot of fantasy managers are going to have him as a top 5 tight end to be taking in next year's draft with the worries about the injuries that he's been having and all of that, and coming off an Achilles tear and his age and all that. But last year, 11 games played, he was the tight end 3 in average scoring at 12.1 points per game, despite dealing with injuries well before the Achilles injury, right? Like he came back from the hamstring injury and all that. In one of those games that's counted towards his point per game average, he played 1 drive, right, in week 1. So he was able to do that despite all the injuries. He scored 18 or more points in half PPR in 4 of those 11 games played. 4 games with 18 plus points was second most by any tight end last year, and Kittle missed 6 games. So just even looking at the last 2 seasons average scoring, Trey McBride is the only tight end to score more points per game than Kittle. So yeah, Achilles tear, a little bit worrisome, but he is a tough dude. And it does seem like he had the best case scenario for an Achilles tear, right? Like it seems like when it comes to Achilles tear, this is the one you'd want. So I think he'll be back by week 1, and he will gut through it and still be a pretty good fantasy asset. So I'm putting him as tight end 3. Who's your dark horse candidate?
Okay, now I'm going really dark horse for you. I'm going maybe with recency bias from seeing him tear up the combine. He is the fastest tight end in the 40 ever recorded in Indianapolis, Kenyon Sadiq. And I'm starting to get into this a little bit more. And Michelle, you may or may not like this prediction. I'm starting to see things that tell me Pittsburgh might take him. And
no, I don't like it.
I'm going to tell you this because Pat Freiermuth, all of a sudden, I'm looking up and there's some trade rumors around Pat Freiermuth. What's going on? So anyway, you may not like it, but I like this prospect a lot. And we've seen the young tight end revolution here. I know it took a couple years for McBride. Bowers did as a rookie. Laporta did it as a rookie. Loveland was coming on strong. In the back half, if you smash Loveland and Tyler Warren's first half, you had an elite tight end there as a rookie. So Kenyon Sadiq is that plus of an athlete. You could also end up in Philadelphia. What if it all worked out where A.J. Brown was traded, and then you have Sadiq and he's taken and Dallas Goedert does not re-sign? Then all of a sudden he's the top guy with the Eagles. I know there have been some talk with the Chargers as well doing this and pairing him with Gadsden and maybe having 12 personnel. So there's a lot of opportunities for Sadiq to be productive here. So I'm just rolling with it. Young tight ends have been the kind of trend here. So I'm going to follow that. I mean, even Fannin in the way he finished last year. So I'm just going to follow the trend and say Sadiq is that type of plus athlete to put up a big season right away. And again, if a team takes him in the first round, they're going to use him a lot. And I think it goes from wire to wire. It may not be the Steelers or the Eagles, but some team is going to go after him in the first round and deploy him a lot all over the field. So I'm excited for that. Now let's look at quarterback. We are tweaking quarterback a little bit. Technically, Drake May is the number 2 on the board, but both of us like Lamar Jackson as the number 2 behind, of course, Josh Allen, the no-brainer here. So quickly, Michelle, who is going to be your quarterback here? There's a lot of quarterback values, but between Drake May, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, who do you like here as the QB3 on the board?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna stick it out with him. He was a quarterback 8 in points per game this last year, and I mean his down year, right? His disappointing year was better than Burrow's or Lamar's down years or Jaden Daniels down year, right? So really his floor is very, very safe because even in a terrible year where the organization seemed like a mess, they fired Kevin Petula after the season. They weren't happy with his play calling abilities. And Petula really kept Hurts from running much too, it felt like, right? Like Hurts was like, why are you playing like this? You're playing different. He was like, well, I just play how my play caller wants me to. He kind of called him out midseason. So with Sean Mannion there now, I think he can go back to playing how he was. And I mean, he was a quarterback 5 in 2024, quarterback 2 in 2023, quarterback 1 in 2022. He's very consistently going to be a top 5 quarterback. And it does seem that they're not going to ban the tush push this year because I guess no one has asked for it. So we'll see if that holds up. But especially if they don't ban the tush push, it's going to feel even that much safer to take Jalen Hurts because he's still going to get those rushing touchdowns easily. So I'm sticking with Hurts as the quarterback 3 for next year.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever hear tush push ban talk ever again. Just figure it out. You figured out how to stop it. The teams that can stop it are fine. Don't take that away from Jalen Hurts. That's a signature play. He's getting it done. It doesn't matter who's in center, who's at the other positions. He's getting it done. And I agree with you. It's going to be Jalen Hurts. I mean, Sean Mannion hire, I think, was made with him most in mind. That means not just getting him back to what he does well, putting him in the comfort zone, making him throw deep. He could also still keep A.J. Brown, and they might add a weapon here that's more dynamic, whether it be a third receiver to put with Brown and Devonta Smith, or a tight end who can stretch a field a little bit more with fresher legs and Dallas Goedert. I think it was actually a bad sign that Dallas Goedert was having that breakout touchdown season. It just showed the limitations of the Eagles' offense. They're not going to do that this year. They're going to open up. Sean Mannion comes from a good background of passing game, so passing game, running game, Hurts, you got to go with Hurts. I mean, he's going to rebound nicely. And look, I'll take him. He's good value right now that you have. So let's go with the dark horse. I'll make my pick quickly. It is Caleb Williams. I just think this guy has got massive talent. If I'm going to say, does someone have a shot to have 40 touchdown passes, he's the next guy. Do I also think he can run a little bit to put up the numbers? Absolutely. We talk about Colston, Loveland, Romadunze, Luther Bird, and DJ Moore. We'll see if they change up any of these weapons, but they should upgrade his offensive line. They should open up the passing game a little bit more. Ben Johnson's provided some elite seasons with Jared Goff when he was there. So I think this happens, and Caleb Williams to me is a plus athlete and a better passer overall than Jared Goff.
Yeah, I like the Caleb Williams one. He needs to be a little bit more consistent and not be waiting until the fourth quarter to take over games. But I like that. I'm going to be talking up this guy all off season long. I already have a bunch. It's Jaxson Dart. So he'd be my dark horse at quarterback 3. Already averaged 20.1 points per game as a starter in 12 starts last year. Only 5 quarterbacks averaged 20 or more points per game as a starter last year. That was Josh Allen, Drake May, Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, and Jaxson Dart. So he was already the quarterback 5 on average scoring in starts last season. So I don't think saying he could be top 3 is that crazy, but he was also super consistent for the most part too. I mean, over 19 fantasy points in 9 of his 12 starts. Absolutely amazing. And his 2 bad games, again, one in New England, one of the toughest defenses out there, and then one against Minnesota in week 16 when that Vikings defense was just on. So I love him this year. He had no weapons last year, still did it. Get Malik Nabers back, get a good coaching staff. And I think Dart can fully take off with his rushing as well. Just stay healthy, Jaxson Dart.
So it doesn't matter. I'm going to take Hurts or Dart. It doesn't matter. I like both of them here at number 3. I want to target one of those quarterbacks. If they stay at their current cost, I'm going after one of those guys. I do like Caleb Williams, but this being a little less pricey than Jaxson Dart. But look, if that would be in the next tier, I'm going to be honest with you. I would have seconded Dart, but I wanted to provide a little alternative that wasn't Trevor Lawrence because I also thought about him. But when we look at it, I think you go Hurts, Dart behind the obvious cheat codes there of Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That's it for today's show. We will be back tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Fantasy Football ad-free every day, Monday through Friday. Discord access and more just for $5 a month. Head to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Bye, y'all.